On this week's show, the Georgia Southern Eagles prepare for their season opener coming up Saturday at Paulson Stadium as they get set to take on Savannah State. We'll take a look and listen to head coach Tyson Summers and some players, as well as the other side of the football with Savannah State. All that and more as we welcome you inside the Eagles Nest. And welcome inside the Eagles Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined by Mike Anthony, sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald. And Mike, it's finally here.
Game week
for Georgia Southern. It doesn't feel like it's here, but it is. And we got the first game coming up. You got Savannah State Saturday. We'll finally get a chance to see at least maybe a scaled back version of what we're going to see out of Coach Summers and his staff. Don't think he's going to have to reveal his whole hand against a team like Savannah State. You never know. I could have gone back in time in 2006 and said, Central Connecticut State, we won't see all the playbook here this week. We're going to run right through these guys, and it was a total shock, but I don't think that's happening. Your thoughts on opening up the season against Savannah State here Saturday?
Well, nothing guaranteed, but there is a lot of reference to look back on. 2 years ago, Savannah State comes into Paulson, opens up the second deck. The first year of FBS football for Georgia Southern wasn't even close back then, 83-9. You could argue that on paper, Georgia Southern's stronger, a little bit better recruits, some full FBS size classes coming in over the last 2 years. A lot of the same faces too. You remember Matt Breida, Kevin Ellison and company, all of them were taking part at least in the opening quarter or so of that game 2 years ago. They're still back. They're as good as ever. They're as experienced as ever. I tend to agree with you. I think this could easily be, if you aren't in your seat early, you might miss some of the starters.
Well, the good thing about this game is they should be able to not only get a kind of taste of what to expect from the offense and the defense, but you'll also get a chance to see some younger guys more than likely get a chance to play. I think that is a good thing about opening up against a team like Savannah State. You could say, you know, why play a team like that? First of all, you're going to get a good game. Second of all, you will get a chance to probably play some younger players.
And Coach Summers talked about that earlier this week. If not necessarily starting some new players, not a lot of open slots from last year's team other than the defensive secondary, but for those guys working in on the line in some skill positions, if they don't get a chance to start, even if they don't get a chance to get in with the second teamers, he did mention about getting guys in on special teams, figuring out these first few games, who's going to be able to contribute this year, who might have to sit out a year, work on things, be a red shirt. But he did say that for the guys that they want to get action, it's not just going to be picking their spots or only in big wins. It's going to be early and often, and they want to see what these guys can do, what they can contribute early on.
The good thing about Georgia Southern's schedule is it does kind of lend itself to dipping your toe in the water, getting a little deeper and a little deeper, as opposed to opening up with an NC State or opening up with a Georgia Tech. You've got Savannah State. You can work out some kinks, because let's not forget, this is his first job or his first game as being a head coach, and a lot of these guys that he's got on his staff, he knows, but he doesn't know how they will react in a game situation.
And it's going to be a little bit different no matter how many games you've coached. It's going to be a little bit different when you're in charge of everything rather than just a position coach or just a coordinator. And same goes for the players. They might react under one coach's style differently than another from one game to the next. But I think that these guys, they're all competitors. They know how to turn it on when the lights come on. I'm sure that they'll be ready. They'll figure it out as they go. And as you said, the schedule probably offering a little bit easier path for the Eagles than for other Sun Belt teams. Not only Savannah State first, but 2 conference games. They're always important. They're always tougher than you might think. But South Alabama, UL Monroe, the first 2 conference games, neither of them expected to make too much noise this season. So for those guys, if everything goes as expected, the Eagles have a chance to rev it up, everybody get on the same page, because after that, things get a whole lot more difficult.
All right, well, let's get out there and hear from head coach Tyson Summers and some of the players about opening up at home against Savannah State.
I feel like we're at the point where we still we're finishing up our installs and things like that, and you know, just a lot of guys, they're just anxious. You know, there's a little drag period right here before the game week. I mean, the games this Saturday, so a lot of guys just ready for that. My team, I'm very proud of my team because you know, each and every day we go out there and compete. You know, we try to make each other better, and we got a team full of competitors and things like that, and we just ready to get after it.
You'd be nervous just because it's the first time going against another opponent. And, you know, you don't really know what to expect because it's a new head coach and things of that nature. But we're gonna be all right. It's just that we gotta, you know, we're just focused. We don't have, you know, right now we're just up and everything. We're just really focused and get into it. We're gonna, you know, show. Just wait till game time. We'll show y'all what Eagle Nation's about. The guys, you know, you seen, you know, just talked to Ironhead, Kevin. I mean, a lot of them just came in with, and you know, it's our last time together, the last ride. So I expect it to be a great one. Started off right at Paul Stadium.
I think more than anything, just us tired of hitting each other, ready to get out there and hit somebody else. I expect a good game. You know, Savannah State, you know, they got a good coaching staff now. They got a good team. So, you know, we got to go out there and play hard. I feel great. You know, Coach Summers and the whole coach staff is doing a great job this year. I feel like on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, we got a lot to show, and we're getting ready to show it on Saturday.
Really looking forward to playing against Savannah State and, you know, having an opportunity to play here in Paulson Stadium for the first time and open up our season here at Paulson. It's important to our kids and important to our players to be able to be here with our fan base and be able to open up the season here. Until you get into that game day environment, you know, you don't know which one. Some kids, you know, tend to panic sometimes. Some kids become very cerebral, and I don't know which ones are going to do that. You know, game day is different. You know, even for me, I've always kind of been high strung and tried to be high intense in practice. And game day, I'm pretty quiet. You know, on the sidelines, I try to make sure that I'm making good decisions and that there is no panic. And you know, so I don't know what we're going to get with that. And we've got big personalities on our team. You know, they're like us. They're kids from South Georgia. They're kids from Atlanta. They're kids from North Florida. They're kids from Tampa. They're the same. Their group of seniors was recruited to play for a 1AA program in the state of Georgia the same way ours were. And when you look at that, and then you take a head coach that's had the amount of success that he's had. You know, we opened up the season last year when I was at Colorado State with Savannah State. I've seen these guys before. They've got talented players. And really, you know, for whatever reason, weren't able to put it together the way that I wanted to. But that's what Eric Raven's done anywhere he's been. He's been able to put it together. So that makes me the most nervous, knowing that they've got talented athletes at Savannah State. And then you bring in a staff that's won where they've been and knows what they're doing on each side of the ball and what kind of success can they have. What makes me know that I'm ready is that I don't know if I ever am going to be. And what I mean by that is if you walk around and you don't have a chip on your shoulder, I don't care if you've been a head coach for 10 years, 10 games, 20 years, or your first game. If you don't feel like you got a chip on your shoulder, if you feel like that whole statement of all the hay is in the barn, you better be coaching every second. Hay ain't in the barn until the last second ticks off the clock in the fourth quarter or overtime. And that's how I know I'll be ready.
Well, we've heard from the Eagles side of things. Now let's hear from first-year head coach Eric Rayburn about how Savannah State thinks about coming up here to take on the Eagles.
We want to win, obviously, but certainly, man, you play against a team like Georgia Southern, you know, your opportunities to win, you know, are much smaller. You know, we're going to have to play a perfect or near perfect game, and they're going to have to make some mistakes for us to win. But I think most importantly, I just want our guys to play hard, you know, for a whole 60 minutes. And if at the end we play hard all 60 minutes, and you know they're just better than we are, you know, I guess we can live with the consequences and move on, and hopefully that'll help us be more competitive when we get to our conference play.
We're going to talk a little bit about some other sports in just a moment, but before we get to that, we kind of do this every year. We get your prediction and my prediction of what we think the game, how the score is going to end up at the end of this one. And first of all, Mike, your thoughts about Georgia Southern playing Savannah State as far as a score?
Well, I think score is where you have to go to be bold. Georgia Southern going to be a favorite. If you're the betting type, I believe it's around 8 touchdowns or so they're favored by. I tend to agree. Savannah State they're still learning. It seems like every other year they've got a new system. They've got to overhaul their roster, get new players. They're going to need a good amount of time to get that program hopefully finally heading in the direction that a lot of people think it can go. Georgia Southern, on the other hand, with big things in mind. It all starts with that first game. They're going to want to put their best foot forward in front of a good home crowd. I'm going to say Georgia Southern wins this one 68-7. First team defense isn't going to allow a point. Also going to say that Chaz Thornton will be your leading rusher.
Good prediction there, and that's the one thing, the other good thing about Georgia Southern's game this week is they still have a couple of guys a little banged up. I don't think we're going to see a lot of L.A. Ransby, Wesley Fields, and Matt Breida in this game, so I like that. Chaz Thornton, leading rusher, suggestion there. I also think the score is going to be very close to that. I was afraid you might. I'm going with 69-6, a missed extra point for Savannah State as they score.
And Georgia Southern picks it up from my score.
Late in the game, so I'm going with that. But I think we both think this is going to be pretty lopsided. Well, let's get into some other sports. You have volleyball and soccer, men's and women's. I guess the guys and the women both picking up wins. The women's win, pretty impressive one. And we also have volleyball getting things underway here at home this week.
Women's soccer opening up home play in style with a win over Charlotte last week. As you said, anytime you beat a team from North Carolina, that's a big sport up there. They're not just basketball, they can play some soccer too. So impressive win for the Eagles. They hit the road this weekend, as do the guys. A long road trip to begin the season for the men's team. They also picked up their first win last week out in Texas, playing against Houston Baptist in a little tournament there. They've got 2 games away from home again this weekend. And then volleyball finally coming home. They really jumped right into the fire last week, going up to Penn State. If you don't know much about the volleyball game, men's or women's, they're about as good as it gets. They joined up with West Virginia and North Carolina, 2 other strong teams. Had a chance to maybe win a match or 2, didn't quite capitalize on that. So 0-3 for the Eagles, but some good experience, and now finally getting to come home to the cozy confines of Hanner Fieldhouse, where they'll host a tournament bringing 4 teams into town this week.
Before we go, we'd be remiss if not mentioning the passing of a dear friend and the original voice of the Eagles, Nate Hirsch. A champion for all things Georgia Southern, Nate leaves an everlasting legacy, and Eagle Nation will acknowledge his accomplishments at Saturday's season opener against Savannah State. Our prayers continue to be with the entire Hirsch family.